right, thanks, Mr. Decker, for joining us. We're going to call our workshop to order, March 21st, 2023, 5 o'clock. Welcome, everybody. Declaration of a quorum, 7 members present. Brings us to item C, hearing of citizens. Do we have anything? We have nothing. Brings us to item D1, consideration and discussion regarding TASB Policy Update 120. Mr. Martindale.
Thank you, Mr. Wright. Board members, tonight we have first reading of Policy Update 120. Again, a reminder of the format. We'll do a first reading. Dr. Perry is going to give an overview of that update, field any particular questions. If you have any additional questions through the course of the month, we typically bring these back the following month for consideration for approval. So with additional details or a review of Policy Update 120, Dr. Perry.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Martindale. Mr. Horak, members of the board, in front of you, you will find a copy of the Update 120 packet that impacts local policy. As you all know, the Texas Association of School Boards periodically releases recommendations for updates to local policy, as well as ensures that our legal policy is up to date. There are only 5 local policies in this particular update. As you all know, we're in the midst of a legislative session, though, so I would anticipate come this fall we'll have quite a few more to be discussing. So we'll begin with policy BBB, and this policy is related to board member elections. You'll notice on the red line copy that there are a few adjustments in language regarding by place and which specific places in which specific years are up for re-election, and this does not affect any sort of change to our practice regarding board elections. It really just provides some additional clarity around the board election process here in College Station ISD. The next policy you'll find is CB Local. This policy is in response to some recommended adjustments with federal revenue sources, so federal grants specifically, and you'll see there the blue lined addition would require the district to provide a public notice of all federal grant applications by publishing that information on our website. Of course, if there are grant requirements above and beyond that publication, much like we have done with the federal funds associated with ESSER, then we would of course go above and beyond that notification. The third policy impacted is CKC Local regarding safety program and risk management emergency plans. There is an addition coming to districts' emergency operations plans that would require us to also include an annex related to any response to a train derailment. And so this is something we'll be discussing with the School Safety and Security Committee at our upcoming meeting and addressing in an addition to our MEOP for the upcoming school year. I think this is particularly good for us to have due to our proximity to trains, and so just know that that will be an addition that is coming to the plan. Of course, we'll work collaboratively with our local entities on that as well. The fourth policy included, I know you all have quite a bit of familiarity with it, which is FNG Local. There are some relatively minor changes to this particular policy related to student and parent complaints and grievances. The first of which provides a little bit of additional clarity on which policies apply to different complaints processes. So specifically with Section 504 and IDEA, you'll see there on page 1 of 7. The addition, though, is on the next page, 2 of 7, and that's related to any sort of dispute regarding a student's eligibility for free or reduced price meal programs, and that would be submitted in accordance with policy COB, so that would be a new addition. Those are the only changes related to FNG, so if you'll flip over to the 5th and final policy in Update 120, and that is policy FO related to student discipline. While there's quite a bit to this policy, the only recommended change from TASB at this time is found on page 3 of 3, and the first addition would be a more prominent notice at the top of the physical restraint section, letting folks know that students with disabilities can only be restrained in accordance with law, and a reference to more specific detailed policy, FOF legal. And then they have moved the reason for a restraint related to protecting property from serious damage up in the policy, and removed controlling an irrational student, because that is pretty vague language. And so the intent there is to provide additional clarity. And of course, there are additional components to the legal policy that provide more specificity than what you find here in local. And with that, those are the recommended changes. I would be happy to answer any questions you might have, or do some research between now and our next meeting if we do need any additional clarification.
Just the one where you, on the FNG local, and it was that, I guess it was an addition, complaints concerning eligibility for free or reduced price meals was be submitted in accordance with COB. What's COB, or just the general, or should, I mean, I can go look it up.
It's just a more specific policy related to complaints for this particular concern. You can see in some of the other areas, for example, under bullet number 11, if it's a complaint regarding a peace officer, then it would be CKE versus FDB or FDC. So there are a number of policies related to complaints. We're most probably familiar with F&G because it involves students and parents. DCBA would be for employees. So within that complaint component, there are a variety of policies, and COB is one of those.
Okay.
Anything else?
Again, if you think of something in the near future, just feel free to email us and we can provide you clarity. And of course, there'll be an opportunity for clarifying questions prior to asking for any action at the April board meeting. Thank you, Molly.
Thank you. That'll bring us to item D2, receive an update related to the 21 bond projects. Mr. Martindale.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Hart and board members. I believe Ms. Strauss and Mr. Hall are going to just lead us through an update on the various projects that were handled last summer, and then some that are coming up this summer as well. So I'm going to turn things over to these two folks.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Martindale, Mr. Horak, members of the board. Mr. Hall and I are going to tag team this as usual. I will cover the first kind of section, and then he'll take over after that. We'll go over some general bond information, and then the projects that were completed this past summer, and the major ones coming up as well. So first, kind of an overview of our bond balances. Now, this is as of the end of February, so it does not include the things that will be on tonight's regular agenda for adoption. But you can see out of Proposition A, or the general proposition, that either expended or committed, we only have about 56% of those funds available left. So about 39.6 million is available still out of that general proposition. The technology and personal devices, they've been very busy, just about depleted that particular referendum with about 315,000 left, or 7%. Natatorium renovations, if you'll recall, just a small amount was done last summer, so there's a big chunk of that tonight. So about almost 2.7 million left in that particular referendum, but I think Mr. Hall will tell you we're going to about deplete that as well. So 42.6 million is left out of all three referendums. So I just wanted to kind of update you a little bit on the transportation piece. This is in the general proposition. If you're aware that we did purchase school buses out of this one. 14 buses were ordered in February of 2022. As of the end of January, only 9 of those were received. And we were even delayed in using those because GPS systems and some key equipment were not included. So we had to wait for that. So, but those 9 are being used on routes today. So we are using them, and we still have 5 that we're waiting on. We don't have a delivery date, but hopefully shortly on those. Because of that delay, we ordered the next round very quickly in the start of the year. So we ordered those 7 in September of 2022, and we do not have a delivery date. This is not unique to College Station. This is happening nationwide. Some of the pandemic, supplies, HVAC issues, the like, but it just kind of gives you a status on where we are with those. And with that, I'll let Mr. Hall take over.
Thank you, Mr. Martindale. Mr. Horak, members of the board, I will be covering the construction portion of the 2021 bond package this afternoon. So we've got lots of projects we've accomplished already, stuff we're in the middle of right now, and stuff coming up in the future. So I'm going to jump right in. We've got a lot of material to cover for you. We'll start with Southwood Valley Elementary School. First project we accomplished was actually last summer. We got out of the chute early for the 21 bond package with this one. Substantially completed the project by August of 22, got school started just in time. A lot of work for that summer. That included a relocation of the principal's office suite and connecting a new security vestibule for that project. Also, basically the whole kindergarten wing of the building over there, we reworked new finishes and did include the new exterior elevation. That's where we removed those old concrete pipe round windows and replaced them with some square ones there. If you're looking at the floor plan, the section in blue on the left, basically that's what we did last summer. You can see the principal's office suite kind of runs up that whole wall to the left there towards the front of the building. Here's a photo from the inside of the building, kind of looking back towards the reception area. But after we got all our new LED lights and finishes in, looking pretty clean for that photo. And here's the new elevation on the front there, where we changed those round windows to square ones. So our next phase that we're planning for the summer of 23, this coming summer, would be once again replacing finishes through the remaining two wings of the building. We will be doing a significant renovation in the library itself, as well as some work at the cafeteria. If you're familiar with that, it's 3 levels. So we're going to remove the one on the bottom and make it only 2 levels. We did award this contract to Rava Construction back in the fall for $3,442,000. So they've been getting a lot of their long lead items all ordered and ready to go for this project. Looking at the floor plan for that one, the area outlined in blue is the area we're going to be taking this summer. You can see down where it says D right there, that's the cafeteria area that we'll be doing some significant work in there. And also kind of just to the right where it says B there, you can see that's the library area over there. And after talking nice to Allie DeLuna, she was nice enough to allow us to jump in there at spring break and get a good jump start on that library. Otherwise, I don't know if we'd have been able to pull off all of this scope, but we did get in there. And this is what the library at Southwood Valley looks like as of today. We got in there and knocked out that whole concrete mezzanine, did a big demo job over there. And so we're going to be able to get a nice jump start on the new construction for that area. And hopefully by the end of the summer, it'll start to look something like this. We've got new walls, lots of glass, lots of fresh paint, natural light coming in there. So it's going to look significantly different by the end of this summer. Next project that I'll be speaking to is the safety improvements. We are in the middle of phase 1 right now for security vestibule hardening for all of our elementary and intermediate campuses. This should be complete by the end of the summer of 23. This will be to improve our ability to control and limit access to our school as needed. We funnel everyone through these security vestibules. This is to harden it up and make it a little tighter, easier for us to take care of. We did get a good jump start on this work over spring break. We didn't start as late as we did because of some long lead items for some electronic components that we were waiting for. But we were able to do some of our ballistic film application in actually all of the security vestibules, at least the first round of it over spring break. So got a nice jump start on that. Next, for safety improvements, we'll be doing our phase 2 portion, which would be the remaining security vestibules throughout the school district, which is going to include the high school and middle school campuses. So that narrows us down to 5 of them, the College Station High School and College View High School campuses, and all 3 of our middle school campuses. And just as a note, the Consolidated High School security vestibule, we'll be picking that up this summer with our Consolidated Renovations Phase 2 project. That was included within that project as well. So over to A&M Consolidated High School. As you probably recall, in the 21 bond package, this was the biggest renovation by far of the whole bond package. In fact, it was so big, we're having to break it up into 4 phases. It's just so much work for each summer. So that will include summers 22 all the way through 25. Our focus, of course, will be refreshing the interior finishes once again. You're going to see a similar pattern to all of these for carpet, hard flooring, paint, restrooms, that sort of thing throughout the whole building. We will be picking up some fine arts areas, including the auditorium renovations, as well as some desperately needed science lab upgrades for safety and for some MEP improvements in some of those areas. We've already accomplished phase 1 of Consol High School renovations. We did that last summer. Since that was so close to actually passing the bond package, we didn't come out with a big one. We only had just a few months to put it together. So we did restroom renovations for about half of the restrooms in the main campus building, as well as a cafetorium area storefront. And that was really to isolate the athletic area wing from the rest of the school during events, so we wouldn't have people, wandering through the building. We could kind of control them back in that area. But once again, this work is already complete. And this is just a typical photo of one of our restrooms that we accomplished in phase 1. So moving on to phase 2, this is what we're going to be looking at doing this summer of 23. Once again, and includes all the finishes throughout this section of the building, as well as LED lighting. We're going to be picking up some LED lighting in our parking lots as well, which I know a lot of our people who start early and work late are going to appreciate a little better light out in those parking lots for safety. We'll be picking up security vestibule upgrades as well, and really redoing the entire principal's office suite. Auditorium, lecture hall upgrades. We'll be getting new seating for those areas. We're going to be converting a couple of old computer labs into science labs, one on each level. And generally speaking, this covers about 40% of the interior space at Consol High School. That's about all we could squeeze into a 9-week run in the summer. This is scheduled for the summer of 23, so we will be complete by the start of school in August. And this, as a reminder, this is on the regular board agenda later on this evening for approval for $5,060,000. So looking at the floor plan for phase 2, you can see the outline in blue. This is the first floor, ground floor level. You can see on the auditorium on the left side, we're going to be repainting, redoing seats, all of that in the auditorium. On the far right side is, to get your bearings, there is the principal's office, main entry area. And then you can see that whole bank of classrooms between it that we generally refer to as the science wing of the building. That's basically the southern third of the building, just a little bit more. And if you go up to the second floor, basically it's the same area, but it's primarily just classrooms on the second floor. So pretty sizable scope for the summer. We're ambitious, but we feel like we're going to be in great shape for that. Going forward, the next couple of summers, we've got phase 3, which will be summer of 24. Once again, that'll be about 40% of the building. That's about all we feel comfortable that we can tackle in that time frame. That'll cover really the northern portions of the building and would include the cafeteria and choir, band, orchestra rooms as well for finished replacements in there. And really phase 4, it's going to probably be 10 to 12% of the project. Really, that's just kind of the mop-up phase for anything else we couldn't get to, different pieces and parts throughout the rest of the building. And then, of course, as we go through the whole school, we got 2 I've listed as miscellaneous others. We're going to be replacing fire sprinkler heads as we go through the building per section, and LED lighting, of course, as well. So by the time we get to the finish line on this, it ought to be looking clean and bright, and it'll look completely different in there. The next project I'm going to talk about is Pebble Creek Elementary. This is a single summer project, so we're not breaking this one into multiple phases. This will be a one and done. We're planning on doing this the summer of '23 as well. Renovations similarly will be interior items, carpet, hard flooring, restrooms, doors, that sort of work. We will be picking up a section in the middle of the building of the old existing principal's office suite. If y'all are familiar with what it used to look like in there, we'll be converting that square footage into, I'll say, more usable space. We're picking up a teacher's lounge and some breakout rooms. It's going to help Blair Grandi out quite a bit over there on that campus. And this project is also on the regular board meeting agenda later this evening for $3,095,000. So this is just a little quick snapshot of the floor plan of the building. Everything shown in blue is where we'll be doing finish replacements. And the two green squares in the middle, we'll be gutting those areas, completely tearing down the walls and reworking those completely. So basically, it's about 95% of the whole building. So moving on to Career and Technical Education Center. This is also known as our Ag Barn project. This is one that's going to be located out on our 90-acre fry tract out on South Dowling Road. The first phase will primarily be designed for animal housing, basically the Ag Barn component. It'll have a practice arena, small office, restrooms, concessions area. And this, the full site is being master planned for future growth because we know Mr. Ross can bring them in. So we're planning on some potential future projects over there as well. We did pick our construction manager at risk contractor back in the fall. That is Spall Glass Construction. And they were just in time to get in here and help us out to work our scope back in line with our budget. We had a lot of things that we wanted to do, and we're having to dial those back just a little bit, but I think we're in great shape now. We do have our design documents are out on the street for bid right now, and we're expecting bids on March 30th. So about 9 days from now, we'll have the bids coming in. So the plan is for, I'll be bringing this to the school board for our guaranteed maximum price approval in the April board meeting just next month. So just a quick shot of the site plan there. You see kind of that S curve at the top of our site there. That's South Dowling Road. And up at the very top of that, you can barely see it there. That's where Capstone tees into it, Capstone Drive over there. You can see about halfway down the South Dowling Road, we've got a driveway to enter our 90-acre site. Goes to a driveway, a little parking area, and the dark gray rectangle you see kind of right in the middle of the screen there, that's where the Ag Barn itself is going to sit. Oh, it's a little faded out, isn't it? Well, let me zoom in a little closer. Maybe you can see it better now. So, so yeah, this is a footprint of the Ag Barn itself, of course. And so the way it's set up right now, we have small animals on the left side of the building with a dirt floored arena in between those two. And all of this will be under roof. We'll have a center core of the building with a main entry kind of at the top there. And you come through, we'll have an office, concession stand, a couple of restrooms, cattle cleaning area so we can wash those off. And you can see the cattle areas on the right there. The pink blocks are under roof. And then it's kind of an inside-outside pen arrangement for those. They can actually go outside and have exterior pens as well. So here's an artist rendering for the front of it. You're looking at the cattle end of it there. You can kind of see where the end of the building sits, and the exterior of the cattle pens actually go out. So we are going to be considering 12 different alternates for, adding some sunscreen, metal panels along the side of it, and some other items as well. So we're going to try to get all we can out of our budget on this one. Elsewhere in the school district for career and technical education projects, we've already accomplished a couple of these. The metal canopies over at Consol and College Station High School were completed last summer. We've got the fencing and the windscreens also complete over at Consol. And the fencing is still ongoing over at College Station High School. So we'll still be putting our windscreens and graphics over there to dress that up a little bit over the next month or so. For Consol High School, we were trying to pick up the culinary arts area as part of our renovations phase 2, but that one came in a little over budget. So we're literally going back to the drawing board, dialing back our scope a little bit, see if we can pick that up on the next round. We have also master planned out our CTE areas behind our 2 campus buildings for layout and construction of various components. We've got greenhouse components and different pieces and parts that we'll be working on over various times over the next couple of years with Mr. Ross and his staff. A couple of little snapshots there. The one on the left, of course, is Consol High School. You can see the metal canopy in the background, but we also have the fence and the windscreen there. So you can see our Tiger logo and CTE. So similar to that, eventually, we're going to have over at College Station High School, you can see the metal canopy already in play there. And actually, a little update for our fencing. We're going to start the install on that Thursday of this week. So in just a couple of days, they'll get out there and start putting that fence in place. So moving on to our Natatorium renovations, this was Proposition C of the 21 bond package by itself. We have already accomplished the boiler replacement over there to keep our water warm enough to swim in this past year. Did that back in August of 22. But the remaining renovation work, we've been designing on that over the last few months with the help of of course, VOK architects, but also our athletic staff and Tiger swim coach Jenny Marquardt got her involved with us on that, of course. Generally speaking, that's going to be a tile, paint, plaster replacement of the main pool area, the whole deck around the pool. We're going to be adding a scorer's table cut into the wall behind the starting blocks. That's new. We've got a kind of a big storage room back there that we're going to convert to a scorer's table area. And we're also having to fix some old structural steel that's corroded over too many years being close to that corrosive chlorine air in there. This project was bid through our purchasing cooperative members back on March 2nd, 2023. And it is scheduled to commence, assuming y'all approve it tonight, it would commence here in just a few weeks in April of 23 and should be completed in the early part of the fall in 23. And by the way, this project is also on the regular board meeting agenda for later this evening for $2.1 million. Just a little artist's rendering of what this is going to look like. If you've ever been in there, you know it's a lot darker in there right now. The LED lighting that's been simulated by VOK architects can show you it's a little brighter. We've got white paint on the walls, a much lighter deck color. We've changed out some metal ductwork up high for some light colored fabric type duct that won't drip, rusty drips out on the deck and all of that. So it's going to look a lot different. And you can kind of see on the far right side there's a new window that's cut in. That's where the scorer's table is going to be right behind that. So they'll have a little more room after we move that out of play for all of the kids and the swimmers and everything in that main deck area right there at the starting blocks. So future projects in the 21 bond package. We've got some design work that will be ongoing, probably get jump started on this summer, but mostly through the fall of 23 for these summer of 24 projects coming up next. Cypress Grove Intermediate School renovations is one of them. Piper Cameron has been patiently waiting on her turn, so we'll be ready to jump in there and get going on Cypress Grove. And then, of course, Consolidated High School renovations phase 3. That's another big project as well. So that'll probably be the biggest one of summer 24. And then, of course, had to list off the miscellaneous deferred maintenance items. Those are really just never ending on those. We continually replace HVAC units across the whole school district. And then I did want to add that our toughest roofing challenge right now is currently Consolidated High School. So in addition to the renovations phase 2, we continue to go around and catch sections of that roof that are giving us the most trouble. So those are kind of the big broad brush strokes on the construction where we're going. We've got more detailed stuff in addition to this, but this gives it to you kind of in a nutshell. So with that, I'd like to open it up to any questions and comments you might have.
Yeah, I think we should talk about it. It's exciting. You're doing a whole lot of work in the next few years. So thank you. Lots of good stuff. So many thoughts. One is I love when we renovate an older school. I mean, I saw it Oakwood and AMCMS, they looked like new schools inside. And so, and obviously half of Southwood Valley does right now, and now Pebble Creek will, and Consolidated as well. So that's very exciting that we are, to me, that we're doing that to some of our older schools, our older campuses. Exciting and important to do as well. So I'm glad that's all happening.
And it's impressive what they can do.
Yeah, it really is.
I mean, it truly is.
Really is. Oh, by the way, another thing, very happy to drive up and see the windscreens at Consol. They looked great. So I'm glad to see that those are coming to both schools, you know. What you mentioned, so we're, what, 44% of the money spent, right? What after we vote, if we vote and approve everything tonight, do you know what percentage that would be? I mean, it's another big chunk, right?
I did not
Didn't do-
calculate that.
Okay. And then I guess then the other question about the money kind of, and you mentioned a little bit with some things are a little bit maybe a little over the budget we proposed, because obviously it's been over a year and a half since this bonds were put together, and how are we tracking to what we kind of thought we'd be able to do with this amount of money? I mean, you mentioned a couple of them, but just kind of how are we tracking?
Well, so far, we do have some areas that I'm concerned about finishing within budget. Mr. Hall, so whenever we're doing some of the projects, because it picks up the security vestibules and it picks up the LED lighting, you know, we're transferring that portion of the budget over to Southwood Valley and A&M Consolidated High School to get that done. But you know, we are going to struggle. We do have some interest earnings. It's one of the positives about the interest rates going up. So we'll be allocating some of those interest earnings to projects in order to, you know, ensure that we can get what we said we were being done. But we are going to have to look at projects. We may have to value engineer some of them, you know, down a little bit in scope to accommodate the inflation. But overall, I think we're very fortunate when I hear other school districts that are having to go issue a second bond to, you know, to finish these. We are not in that position. But we will be looking at some of the smaller things. You know, the security items, when we did receive that $1 million donation, we told them then that we were having some issues with finishing the security items. So they are well aware that we might be using some of that to finish up security vestibules and those things.
All right, thank you. Yeah, it's obviously not like in previous years, we've had extra
Right.
money. This is not one of those
No, this is
those
not going to be
times.
one of those.
Yeah, definitely not. That's it. Thank you for all the hard work. Thanks, John.
Thank you, John. Amy?
That'll bring us to D3, consideration and discussion related to the 23-24 budget development process. Mr. Martindale.
We're entering that time of the year, favorite topic, budget preparation in a legislative year, no less as well. So Ms. Strauss is going to be, give us the first preview a little bit, actually kind of tell us how we're tracking current year, and then just touch on a handful of things related to preparations for 23-24. Amy?
Thank you. So a few things that we'll highlight tonight for our first budget workshop is budget goals, objectives, and challenges to go over those. We'll look at some historical data because this kind of sets the tone for the coming year. We'll look at an update, particularly of revenue for our current year, 22-23. That then becomes kind of the baseline for next year. And look at some preliminary assumptions for next year. Because like I said, as Mr. Martindale said, a legislative session, we are always just a little bit behind on working our next year numbers. But the goals and objectives, these are the same we had last year. Cabinet level, we went over that, and at this point, unless you've got some other ones you would like to add or alter on this, we felt like they still applied. One is to recruit and retain high-quality workforce to support instruction. Support that quality instruction in the way of staffing, supplies, equipment, and services. Utilize data available when making our budgetary decisions and recommendations to make the best decision for the district. Maintain a financially healthy fund balance and continue to reduce the use of ESSER funds in support of the general fund as we transition out of those grants that are available. So, unless there are some other ones that we need to consider, we really felt like these still applied. So 22-23 accomplishments. I hear curriculum instruction always have celebrations. So for budget, I think there's a few that we can recognize here as well. First and foremost, the voter-approved tax rate election, and we really appreciate our voters supporting our district last November. As a result of that, we were able to implement higher compensation for all of our employees. So as a reminder, the total raise with both compensation plan A and B was 6% for all employee groups with the exception of administrators, and that was 4%. We've talked about enrollment, and we did have growth, but not quite what we had anticipated. But even with that lower enrollment, we're estimated that we will have a balanced budget by year end. So we'll have some updates on that. So I think that's a celebration. And then while many districts have experienced a decline in enrollment for this current year, we did have an increase of right at 2%. From snapshot date to snapshot date. So those are some things worth noting. Some challenges. So for the current year, student attendance has remained a challenge. As you know, we get funded on average daily attendance. So it's not only a funding issue, though, it's an educational issue. They're not here, they're not learning. So that remains a challenge. Competitive salaries, staff retention, and fund balance. So with that balanced budget that I am projecting, this will be the second year that we're not looking at in a row of declining fund balance. So we're moving in the right direction. For 23-24, that legislative session is the biggest item because we will not know until hopefully early June, if they don't go into special session, what the results are and can start working on revenue. Competitive salaries, staff retention, and fund balance remain a challenge. So a little look at historical data. You can see this is our enrollment since 2014-15. Of course, 2021 was a slight dip, as well as 18-19, and that was charter schools. But the yellow is our projected, and it's about a 1.6%. That's based on the demographic data. I did not project average daily attendance for next year, but we'll look at factoring that once I get a little bit more data on this current year. I'm projecting our average daily attendance for this year will be around 13,330 by the time we finish. Property tax rates. So you can see for the past 7 years now, we've had almost an 18.5-cent decline in our total tax rate. The INS rate, we took a reduction in 1920, and we kind of held constant since then on the debt rate. And you can see the maintenance and operations. At 1920 was House Bill 3, where we started that compressed tax rate, and we've been declining ever since because of our property value growth. So property value growth, last year, almost 11.5%, and that was after we took the increase in the homestead exemption. So that was some phenomenal growth, and I think that was felt across the state. So the big question is, where are we going to be for 2023? So you can look back and see last time that we had these 11.5% type what happened the following year, but we also have to keep in mind that, the comptroller study that was done indicated that we were a little low. Some of that, our appraisal district is saying it's a lack of information on sales that they get, because those no longer have to be turned in. And I think the comptroller has a little bit more access. So based on that, we can pretty much predict we're going to have an increase. It's going to depend on how much. So we'll start getting some data in the next month or so. Fund balance. You can see the trend here where we were increasing through 19 and then we started declining some each year. We were using fund balance. For 22 and 23, it's expected to stay stable. So that's the positive. I do remind you that one of the financial integrity rating system points has to do with fund balance. So we do monitor that. And it is a very accurate indicator of our financial stability. So we'll keep an eye on that as well. There's certainly times to use fund balance. I think whenever we were using it here, that was one of the right times to do it. For one-time expenditures or when you're in a decline like that, to not make rash decisions. And we're thankful that we had that balance there. So looking at 22, 23, I said we would look at our revenue projections. And even with that average daily attendance, we budgeted 13,725, similar type of enrollment, and we're not going to quite make there. So, it was concerned that we were not going to make our revenue budget. But there's two things that happened. First of all, interest earnings again. That interest rate has really helped us out this year to help make up that difference. We're also probably going to see a little bit more in our federal monies as well, not ESSER, but in our other federal, our Medicaid programs and that sort. So you see a lot of recapture there. I always kind of net that with revenue. 2.8 million when I wasn't budgeting any. So kind of ask what happened. First of all, we didn't have the enrollment that we thought we were. So a lower enrollment with that kind of property value growth is going to produce recapture. But the other thing is, after we adopted our budget, they increased what's called the per capita. It's a part of the funding formula. When they do that, districts that are in a recapture state, it increases your state revenue, but it also increases your recapture. So it really doesn't net us anything. There's not a whole lot of districts that benefit when they increase that per capita. But it's required, it's a formula that they use to get it there. So that's what happened. But if you look at that, even with the recapture, I think estimating revenues net of that with the expenditures that we budgeted. So if we can come in within our budgeted total expenditures, we should be balanced the way we had planned had that TRA passed. So we'll still be there. So looking forward to 23, 24, there's not a whole lot we can do, but there's a few things that we can talk about. One is enrollment. We feel confident we will have an increased enrollment. The demographer has estimated about 1.6%. So we're saying 1 to 1.6%, at least for enrollment growth. Pretty much can bet that property values are going to continue to increase for next year. And also that the total property tax rate will continue to decline due to that required compression, even without any legislative changes. And there is a lot of bills out there to even compress it beyond what the funding formula currently has. So those are three things I think we can bet on here. This is some information from our demographer to show kind of by grade level. The colors there show some of our larger classes as they move through. But 1.6% for 24-25, looking about that same percentage growth as well, and then declining to just a little bit over 1% after that. But at least we are in a growth position. We will get another update this spring as well, just to follow up and make sure nothing's changed. So timeline, we've opened our employee candidate pools, working on staffing right now. This is our first budget workshop, so there'll be several more to come. We are working on departmental and campus budgets right now as well, but kind of looking all the way forward to, August 1st is when TEA will come out with the maximum compressed rate for all districts. Advertisements, those required advertisements about our public hearing and our budget adoption on or around August 4th. And this sets us up for our public hearing and our tax rate adoption on the regularly scheduled meeting on August 15th. I did call because, as you know, the last meeting, you chartered a committee for a long-range facility plan as well as potential bond. So the last date to call for a November 7th election would be August 21st. So with that, I'll open it up for any questions.
I know the numbers are unknown, but referencing back to the slide that was discussing the roof repairs from the winter storms, do we have a guesstimate on how that's going to turn out?
So this year, we still have some remainder, but we also are going to collect the remainder of our revenue. So I think that extraordinary item will be a net wash. Because, you know, we did a lot of the repairs and you only get so much of that money up front. So I do believe this year that will be, you know, a net. We'll net okay on that one.
So we mentioned attendance. What do you think we're going to, what is the attendance rate right now that you're going to use to predict in the model?
So prior to pandemic, we were running over 96%. And I think right now we're probably in 94.5, somewhere in that range. So you wouldn't think that makes a lot of difference, but it does.
It's a 1.6% of our budget. That's what it really is.
So we were running a little over 96%. You know, last year they had those hold harmlesses in place, but those are not here. We are better than last year. Last year we were running 93.5 to 94 overall. So we are better than we were last year, but we still have a ways to go to get back to where we were pre-pandemic.
Kimberly, along these lines, just of note, there has been, House Bill 31 has been filed, which would establish funding based on enrollment as opposed to ADA. 38 of the states in the U.S. utilize enrollment. Texas is not one of those. But if that were to gain any traction and progress through this system, that would be a benefit, a funding mechanism for all public ISDs. House Bill 31, yes.
Thanks. Yeah, you anticipated my follow-up there. Yeah, exactly. And then I think obviously the other big factor in here, which to me is the one that's much more complicated to understand, is the tax base and then the compression piece of it. Is there, I mean, I know they always said it all every year. It's we don't know what it'll exactly be, but like kind of where do we want things to be that would kind of be good for us, where we wouldn't have recapture, but we're getting kind of the maximum benefit of the, I mean, where is that, generally that sweet spot that, you know?
I'm not sure. I'd have to really look at that formula to determine where that is. You know, when they first changed House Bill 3, we were out of recapture for a little bit of time. So that to me is kind of where you would want to be, but I'm not sure what it would take to get us there.
Yeah, no, I would like to be out of recapture too, right?
Yeah,
to remain out of
absolutely.
recapture.
Well, you have your appraised values, you have currently your ADA, and wherever the state establishes that value relative to per student. So there are three different variables involved in that calculation. So they could adjust any one of the three, and it would impact the recapture calculation.
So, you know, I would like to point out that 2.8 million, you know, when we communicated about our tax rate election, we said these 3 cents would not be subject to recapture, yet now we have recapture. So some may wonder that. But that 2.8 million is the same amount it would be if we were 3 cents less. So even though we have recapture, we have no additional recapture because of that 3 cents, if that makes sense. So I think that's important to note, because we did communicate that, and someone may say, well, you've got 2.8 million, but it would have been the same calculation without the TRE.
I just want to confirm some things before I go send emails to legislators. So the state is saying our property values are not high enough.
Correct.
Are they guaranteeing they're going to buy my house at that? So because people want to move here because we have good schools, our property value goes up, simple supply and demand. But because we have good schools that drive up the property values, we're getting less money for our schools is the outcome of the compression.
You're getting less state monies, basically, because of that recapture.
So we're being punished for success. And I think what I would like to say on the positive note, a balanced budget at any level of government is an amazing feat. So thank you for your team and your work, to the voters, the teachers having the great performance, and then for the voters who recognize that performance and get that tier, because it's not a very popular ballot item, and allowing us to not only raise pay and be competitive and then balance the budget. That's a huge win.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
That'll bring us to item D4, receive an update regarding progress on the 22-23 district improvement plan. Mr. Martindale.
Thank you, Ms. Horak. Board members, we have Dr. Perry, Dr. Hickman, and Ms. Parkinson going to give us an update on, it's a mid-year update, even though we're kind of beyond mid-year of our district improvement plan. Just a reminder that our district improvement plan, as well as our campus improvement plans, are all aligned and basically built from, not basically, they are built from our strategic plan. We're currently in our second year of strategic plan. So the alignment between our DIP and our SIPs and our strategic plan are all there, and ensures everyone's kind of working the same direction, on the same road, within the same lines. So ladies.
All right, good evening, Mr. Martindale, Mr. Horak, and members of the board. Mr. Martindale has helped us with making this an expedient presentation, because about the first 3 slides that he's gone over with for, so I'll be quick.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So the strategic framework really is the backbone of our district improvement plan, and we are in year 2 of the implementation of that work, which includes these 6 aspirational goals. The district improvement plan itself is available on our school on our district website if you'd like to look at it in detail in this format. And just a reminder that those strategic plan goals are lofty. We're looking to accomplish those in the next 3 to 5 years. Some are lofty enough they may take us a little bit longer than that. We also have specific results that were created by that strategic design team, which are those key markers of progress toward the goals. And then really our district improvement plan is housed in those strategies and action steps. That's what we're trying to accomplish this school year. And you will see our March district improvement plan progress tonight as we share a little bit of information about each goal. We also have the key that is at the bottom of each slide. So just a refresher, a check mark is accomplished. We're getting close on some goals, but for the most part, we've made considerable to some progress on most of these action steps. So once again, this is our second year of implementation, and we'll start by sharing a little bit about our progress toward Goal 1, which is about enhancing effective instructional practices by implementing innovative and personalized learning experiences. We have made considerable progress in the action steps toward these goals. And I'm not going to read each action step to you. We'll move to the highlight slides that we have for you this evening. And so really with Goal 1, this is our campus implementation of our framework for success. Just a reminder that that logo with the puzzle pieces is more than just a picture. Each of those phases represents an aspect of the instructional framework and the types of learning experiences that we would like our students to have in our classrooms. And each of our 19 campuses have chosen 2 of the phases of the framework at this point to focus on implementing at their campuses. And so what I have here for you are a couple of highlights. At 2 of our middle schools, we have pictures from the February Staff Development Day where they were actually taking time to plan with the strategic framework in mind. Their district time was really about meeting with your teams, making sure that they're continuing their implementation and having that time to plan. You'll notice that really I said 2 middle schools. Those are the pictures from Riverbend and A&M Consolidated Middle School of that district day in February where they had time to implement. For the bottom right-hand corner there, we have a picture of the small group instruction focus that is happening at College Station Middle School. And really, small group instruction is something that happens quite commonly in elementary schools, but not as much as you progress through secondary. And so we're really excited about the differentiated instruction and small group instruction that is happening through our secondary campuses as well as our elementary because of that framework for success implementation. Additional highlights with personalized professional learning. We've really focused on that personalized learning being modeled through how we develop leaders in CSISD. Dr. Hickman and I are working very closely with our principals on their individualized goals related to their leadership development as well as their implementation of the strategic plan. And we also have added an AP fellowship program this year to give aspiring administrators some job-embedded learning experiences to better prepare them for that next phase of their careers as well. In addition, for other personalized professional learning, we are continuing to leverage our professional learning system, which is another aspect of PowerSchool. We're able to better track our staff development courses and provide a variety of offerings through that. We continue to offer a lot of choice PD at the district and campus levels. And then I'd alluded to earlier that each campus was able to customize their district time based on what they needed as related to the strategic plan on that February 20th day as well. And then finally in this area, we are really building a lot of background data with our background understanding of data with our principals through our implementation of Performance Matters, which is another PowerSchool tool, which really allows us to see a lot of information about a student all in one glance. That's what the picture at the bottom of the page is. We can have STAR and MAP, attendance data, grade data, TELPAS, a lot of different pieces of information all on one screen as we are looking to better serve and differentiate for our students. And so that's really exciting. We're also working to train teachers on the assessment side of Performance Matters because we were able to create our own district-based assessments and students can get that extra practice in taking an assessment on an online setting. We all know that STAR is moving online this year as well. And so that's important practice and experience for our students and gives us really powerful information to drive our next instructional steps.
All right, that takes us to goal 2. As a reminder, goal 2 is that CSISD will elevate outcomes of our historically underperforming student groups. Yeah. I'm afraid of the mouse, it gets a little tricky. So just as Tiffany talked about in goal 1, we're not going to go through each one of these specifically, but we have definitely made some progress in the area of our MTSS program. As a reminder, that is multi-tiered systems of support in which we support our students who may need a little bit more support in order to reach grade level expectations, or even those who may need some extension. The same is true regarding our next action step, which is about really improving those research-based best practices in all classrooms. That is Tier 1 instruction. Remember, that is the great instruction that every single student should receive in every single class. And so we have made some good progress in that area as well. Moving on to the highlights that are associated with Goal 2. So what you see there in the bottom corner where you can see the title Curriculum Management Plan, one of the things that our curriculum and instruction team has been working on is developing a comprehensive curriculum management plan that really details use of the curriculum, and who has what responsibility in implementation, and the way in which we update and use that in our everyday practice. And then you see over on the opposite side of the screen some examples of the visioning work that's been done in our core content areas. So our secondary English instruction has their vision statement reference there for you. And then the little logo at the top is for the Texas Collaborative for Science Innovation. Amanda Gibson, who is our science coordinator, has been really just working so hard with that group and a group of teachers and administrators here in the district to work toward that science visioning statement as well. So we're making progress in visioning for each of our core content areas across the board so that we can make sure we have that common direction that really makes sure that we're reaching all of our students. The second highlight that we have here is regarding our MTSS processes. Ms. Parkerson referenced Performance Matters. It was the picture that showed you all the student data on one screen. Another way that we can utilize this system is by inputting information about student intervention. And so we have begun gradually this year having our campus interventionists enter more and more data about the students who they're seeing on a regular basis so that we can then couple that with other assessment data that we have and also really track progress and make sure that the interventions we're providing are working. And if they're not, what can we do differently? And if they are, what can we do to make sure we're helping students reach grade level. So really refining that use of performance matters has been a good step this year toward getting our MTSS processes more aligned.
Goal 3 is where we are focusing on enriching student school experiences by strengthening relationships between students, staff, and families. And really we focus on that both within the context of school here with this first specific result. And we made some progress here. And then really it's about engaging and getting out in the community and inviting the community in with specific result 3.3. And so a few highlights of things that have happened recently to promote an engaging relationship between the school and community. A&M Consolidated recently, right before spring break, had their beautification day. This is an annual event that goes back to couple of decades ago when I was there. We called it the Little Big Event back then. And so this beautification opportunity for the community to take pride in their school and work is continuing there. We also have all of our campuses participate in the Empty Bowls Junior event in which they create their own sculptures and bowls to be sold to the benefit of the food pantry. And so those are a couple of good examples here of our students really engaging in their schools and communities. In addition, all of our campuses support the Junior Achievement Bowl-a-thon. And so we can see the Rock Prairie Wranglers are representing well there. And then we are really wanting our campuses to enable students or provide opportunities for true service. And so all of the students at Southwood Valley Elementary had the opportunity to raise money, gather gifts, and wrap those gifts to be given to other students in the district at Chrissy's Closet during the holiday season as well. This really dovetails nicely into Goal 4, which is about cultivating and strengthening intentional partnerships with our businesses and community and higher education agencies. So within Goal 4, you will notice there are a couple of areas that we've not made progress in. However, we are gathering the necessary data to be able to add folks to our committee, and that's what those two areas are. So just wanted to point that out. And so I'll move over to the highlights. Right before spring break, Mr. Glenn Winkle sent out a survey to all of our success team, all of our principals as well as other district administrators to make sure that we had a really good list of all of the existing partnerships. And so we are gathering that information right now, and from there we'll move forward with the rest of the committee's work. A couple of academic partnerships that we want to celebrate or highlight. You'll see our early childhood students are learning about the farm to table concept, and in the picture on the left, they are out at our local Brookshire Brothers where they had that hands-on learning experience, and from there they were then able to go over and eat at a fancy table and learn a little etiquette at Casa do Brasil. And so those are some really great experiential learning opportunities for our early childhood students because of those businesses who are enhancing their learning. Additionally, here's an example from Oakwood Intermediate. They are partnering with the Texas A&M Engineering Department for an after-school program where students are having the opportunity to build robots, design them, you can see on the left, and then get them to work. And so that's been a really beneficial partnership for us. Additionally, I'm really excited to announce that in addition to the partnerships that we've already shared with you, such as our hospitality partnership with College View High School and Texas A&M's Hotel and Resort Conference Center, our partnership with the Rellis campus, that we are adding additional academic partnerships. And we are currently in discussions with the School of Performance and Visualization and Fine Arts at Texas A&M University to expand our academic partnerships in the areas of dual credit and internships and job embedded learning experiences. And we're also exploring how we can leverage their facilities to better engage our students. And so we are really excited about the potential of that partnership that we are working to grow here. We have at this point had several meetings. Mr. Eakes has been representing Fine Arts, Mr. Ross with Career Technical Education, and of course, Mr. Martindale and myself have been in those conversations.
All right. As Ms. Parkerson mentioned early on, these are lofty aspirational goals. However, Goal 5 in particular, thanks to the generosity of our voters, is an area where we have made a lot of improvement, and we may be able to fully accomplish by the time we revisit strategic planning in the next few years. So looking at our technology ecosystem, or the hardware that you'll see in our classrooms and behind the scenes to make those things work, we were really focusing on increasing those classroom devices. And when we look at the numbers here soon, you'll see we've made some considerable progress there, although we still have some work to do. Also, thinking about the safety of that infrastructure has been a hugely important part of this process. Not only are we upgrading through the bond funds that you all have approved the purchase of many of the infrastructure components, we are also upgrading the Wi-Fi. Of course, as we continue to have a greater need, the Wi-Fi access points are a component of that. In fact, many of those are facing some of the challenges that we're seeing with our buses in terms of a shortage in delay with supply chain. However, we have a lot of those upgrades coming as soon as they are available to us. So we will improve the coverage across our campuses. The next area really does focus in on security and privacy of information. As you all know, cybersecurity is a huge area, not only for public schools, but all public entities and private. And so one of the things that we have done, not only to secure the infrastructure, but also is to improve our knowledge and understanding on the human behavior side of things, because we can have the most secure system in the world, but a breach can easily happen. And so we are continuing to ensure that our employees are participating in cybersecurity training, as well as having implemented, and you can see that that's accomplished because that happens on a monthly basis now, those periodic and randomized assessments that provide immediate feedback to our employees if they do engage in unsafe online behavior. So thinking specifically around the 21 bond, Proposition A included a sizable amount, $12.3 million, for technology related to those infrastructure replacements and upgrades I spoke about, as well as the firewall and filtering. We'll see some of those components in the classroom as well, with audio and visual equipment upgrades, smart panels that have been installed throughout the district, with the exception of the area that is being renovated at Southwood Valley this summer. We'll be doing those in conjunction with those renovations and those Wi-Fi improvements that I mentioned. Proposition B was specifically around those devices that are either held by teachers or students because they're not attached to the wall like the smart panels are. And as you might recall, we had to do a separate proposition for that. And so as far as teacher laptops, for the first time ever, all of our teachers in the district have received a laptop. And so we've made that transition from desktops, which allows them to be more collaborative and mobile around the building with each other. And then we've also recently at the, I believe, February meeting approved upgrades to our computer labs. And so we're expecting those to be received in April and deployed across all of our campuses. We've also added 2,800 additional student laptops to our campuses within the last year. And so we are getting close to having expended many of the funds that we had approved as part of that 21 bond to improve those areas as addressed in Goal 5.
Okay, back to me for Goal 6. Goal 6 is really about instructional technology. So it takes the technology that we talked about in Goal 5 and really looks at how we're using that to improve instructional practices. So that, as a reminder, we're not using technology for technology's sake, but rather as something that really does augment the learning experience. The first part of Goal 6 here is about having an instructional technology plan for teachers and staff. That's something that we are continuing to work on with our principals, again, through that SAMR model. And then this next part is about the comprehensive instructional technology plan for all students. And so you can see we have considerable progress in some areas, some progress in others. And then the work that we have yet to do still is about really making sure that we've integrated those technology application teaks that will come into effect next year. Oh, I thought it. And then finally, making sure that we are providing technology resources and support to all of our teachers, which we have made considerable progress on that as well. Just some highlights here. It is great to see this meaningful integration of technology that's happening across the district. We do have Lauren Finkner, who is our instructional technology coordinator for the district, who spends a considerable amount of time out on campuses really working with teachers, like one-on-one or in groups, and how can we really use these technology resources that we have to make our instruction better for students. The other piece here that's very exciting is our Educational Technology Cohort, PLCs. We currently have 20 staff members in our EdTech cohort for this year. Of those, there are 16 who have received devices in their classroom in a 1-to-1 ratio, whether that be through Education Foundation grants or campus or other funding sources. And as a result of having that technology, they participate in professional learning communities about how to really use that effectively and really what's best for students. Most recently, whenever they met, they actually looked at the teacher evaluation system at T-TESS and at the SAMR model, which is our model for use of technology, and how do those connect? So how do we make good teaching work really well with technology? So that cohort group is working both with Lauren Finkner and with Natalie Vela, who is our district technology coordinator.
So we will close with sharing some of the feedback from our District Education Improvement Council. They are our committee for the district that we also report out all of our progress monitoring to as well. And so they celebrated the additional devices that they've really seen how that has impacted student learning positively. As well as noting the focus that they've seen across the district since this is the second year of the implementation of this plan, that they can see how the strategic framework is being connected effectively, and also that the campus work is directly connected to the district work, that it's seamless there. They also were excited to have some time to implement the framework and best practices into their classroom instruction that was embedded into our professional learning days as well. And so with that, we'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have regarding our current progress.
So I also like the way this is presented to us. This is much more, for me, this is much more easier to digest and understand than past DEIC reports, right? Following the strategic plan. It's super helpful for me as well. I do have one question about the performance matters that you talked about for was it goal 1 and goal 2? That does seem a really cool, tool to be using. Do parents have access to this?
There is a student and parent interface that we are learning more about before we are able to launch that. And so it is in the timeline,
Okay.
maybe as early as next year, but we really have some things we have to refine about the way all the data is connecting,
Right.
To make sure that it works. We do not want to launch it prematurely. And so
Right.
we're being really wise and slow about that aspect of it, but it does have that capability.
Okay, that is the plan, because I can see that being really helpful for parents. I mean, for me, that would be fantastic for me to be able to see in one, just like a teacher, be able to see everything about my kid in one place. Yeah, that sounds pretty cool. And then to have the teacher explain it to me, because I would probably need that too.
I guess just one quick thing. I agree, it's a great update and very easy to digest. I love the one in blue there also, that we're specifically connecting this, obviously with the plan, but all across the district as well. Good progress on lots, but still some Ps on there. It looks like you didn't mention adding any new aren't there still some elements on there that we haven't tackled, or or is everyone on the list now?
There are still some specific results. I cannot say that word today.
I know,
I'm
I always
sorry.
forget that.
There are some specific results that have not been brought forward to be included in the plan, and so that will be part of our work here through April and May to examine what needs to be continued to next year, what those next action steps are, and whether we're ready to add any additional specific results. And so we will be bringing some of that information back to you in the next few months.
It's just as we went from year 1 to year 2, Ms. McAdams, and we carried over some specific results because we didn't feel as though we were completely done with them. Plus, we also thought they were vital building blocks to some of the additional specific results. So it'll be a cumulative effect through the course of the next couple of years.
Sounds good.
Anything else? Thank y'all so much for your report.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
And that will bring us to item E, adjourn.